Welcome back to the Multifamily Investing Podcast. This is Charles Dobbins, the founder of the Multifamily Investing Academy and the multifamilyattorney.com. And every week we delve into the good, the bad, the ugly, the comic, the heartbreaking stories of multifamily ownership. They will inspire you to do what you've always dreamt of doing. So sit back and enjoy the best training on multifamily investing on the internet today. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's a great question.
Great question.
It's a good question.
This is a really good question right here.
It's a great question, by the way.
That's a great question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Charlie.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
You know, that's a great question.
Good question.
Great question.
Great question.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Hey, everybody, this is Charles Dobbins, the founder of the Multifamily Investing Academy and the Multifamily OS program. I am here with a very special podcasting show. This was so good. This is actually my Monday night live call where I do every Monday night. All my clients come online and we talk about multifamily. I teach them a topic. I have an interview. I bring on some vendors, whatever it is, just to learn and for all of my students to meet and greet each other and become friends, partners, and investors with each other. This call was such a special one. I've decided to make it one of my podcasts. It's with one of my oldest students in the business. He's killing it. I want you to meet him. He's a super nice guy. This is a call I did on Monday Night Live with Jason Stubblefield, who I remember. This guy came to one of my classes back when Donald Trump had just become president. That's how long ago it was. And I go through what he's done over the last 5-7 years, however long it's been. And you get to see how he has grown as a multifamily investor. It's a fantastic story. You'll know him, you'll love him, and it's going to be great. So sit back, pour yourself one of the things you drink, and I will see you on the other side. We're going to have a little fun today. I've asked a special guest. Let me see where. I have not. Oh, there he is. There he is. He's look at him looking all GQ-ish in his picture. So I love these types of calls. We have one thing on the agenda today, and that is I want you all to meet one of my oldest students, not the oldest. There he is. There he is. This guy's a great guy. He's such a nice man, and we're gonna talk about his journey. He is killing it now. I get his newsletter whenever he sends it out. I love reading it. I love hearing what he's been up to. And I want everybody, by the time we're off this phone call, I want you to become his friend like I am. And I want you to sign up for his newsletter to see how he does it, because he's doing it right. Yes, Jason, welcome aboard. Make sure you unmute yourself. There he is. How are you, brother?
Uncle Charlie, I'm glad to be back, my man. How you feeling?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. So how are you doing?
No, I'm great, man. If you can, you survive COVID, man, you got over just about anything, man. Nothing's gonna get rid of Uncle Charlie over here, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, Jason, so first off, has the other person, I have to check the messages here. Let's see if the other person that was sitting next to you in that Washington event, has not spoken up. I'm going to call him out in just a minute, because the person you sat next to is in the program, and it's great to see him. Do you know who I'm referring to, Jason?
I don't.
Okay,
I can't. Your memory is better than mine.
I always remember where everybody sat and what they did. So it's Drew Pugh. Drew, you sat next to Jason Stubblefield. Let's see if Drew's going to unmute himself. I'll ask him to unmute and see if he comes up here, because I remember looking at the two of you guys. Because Drew, there you are.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Do you remember Jason?
I recognize him, but I think it might be because I've watched him on YouTube a little bit. So that might be it. I'll turn on my camera. I wasn't camera ready here.
Okay, now you're beautiful. There it is.
Put my clothes back on. Yeah.
Look at that. The two of you. I remember the two of you sitting there next to each other, and because I remember that you both had military backgrounds. So Drew's in the Air Force, and Jason, I always think it was the Marines or the Navy.
It is. You got it. Yeah.
Marines. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Oh, that's the real military.
Oh, Richard Berardinelli would agree with that coming from an Air Force guy. So, yeah. So that's so cool. And look at Blake Radijak is sitting back there quiet too. Hey, Jason, let's talk about, let's talk about where you were when you and I met. You had some experience in multifamily. I think your father was involved in it. So
Yep.
Give everybody your pedigree and, give us the background of where you started from.
Yeah, you taking me back now, Charlie. But no, I remember that day, just like you do. Remember sitting in that auditorium seating, and where I was then is that I had purchased a 34 unit apartment building, and my dad was the property manager. Neither one of us knew what the hell we were doing, right? It was just like he was at a point where he was retired, was looking for something else to do, and I had just purchased this building. I was like, "Hey, Dad, you want to manage it?" And we just sort of figured it out, and screwed up until we eventually got it right. But that's where I was, and someone at this point, I had the plan of just refinancing everything. All right, I was never going to raise any money. I'm just going to take my funds and try to build a portfolio that way. And so everything was tied up in this 34 unit apartment building. And suddenly I got an epiphany. I talked with some other people, and they were like, you can raise money from other people and not have to just sit around and wait. And so I was actively, like, I showed up there strategically looking for somebody who could teach me, for one, how to not make all the mistakes I made when I bought that first building, because I learned on the fly about things I screwed up. I didn't check bank records. I did it all wrong, right? So I wasn't going to risk taking somebody else's money and making those same mistakes. So I showed up. I don't even know how I found out about the thing. It just popped up somewhere, and I was like, let me go check this out. And Charlie was pretty captivating there. He had a good presentation. I learned a lot that day. And really owe a lot to you. I'm pretty sure I've told you that, but I want to say it definitely on a public platform, and to everybody who's on the call tonight. Man, you really put me on a trajectory that I wasn't on before, and you gave me the confidence to go out and do more deals that I didn't really have myself. So those two things together really allowed me to get that first syndication deal done, and that led me to some more deals down the road.
That is so cool, and I've watched you take off from that point. And like I tell my students, you're only gonna need me for the first two deals. After that, we're just friends. Jason is a perfect example of that I'm talking about. Jason, let's talk about the 34 unit deal. Now, obviously, I don't know what you were doing as a job. I know one of my students used Navy Federal Credit Union to finance their 66 unit deal because she had she had a military background. How did you go about putting together that 34 unit deal? Tell me how you did it, and then let's talk about all the things you did wrong, because success is a lousy teacher. We want to know what you did wrong.
Yeah. So that deal I found, it was from a residential broker, so it wasn't even on like one of the big guys or commercial real estate brokers.
What town was it in? Where was it located?
It's in Tennessee, right? So it's in Western Tennessee, where I'm from. Oh. And this property, I just happened to call on it one day because it was cheap enough that I could afford it. I was like, I had got just enough money to be able to pull this off. And it was a beat up property, right? So this is not, we're not talking about what's your saying, Charlie? Like, life is too short for for Class C. Well, this was probably a C- right now. It was a C-, like 50% vacant, and it was a dog of a property. But I was hungry to go try to make something happen, so I stepped into it. Financing was a train wreck. So what I ended up doing was, I didn't know how to go get a loan, honestly. not on a commercial piece of real estate. So I got rejected from probably 10 lenders, right? Where I was just going, I want financing on this. And I had this nice booklet that I thought I knew what the hell I was doing. I had my tax returns in there and you know, W-2, and I'm like, hey, I just want to go get finance. And they're like, no. I had no pro forma, didn't tell them what I planned on doing with the buildings. It was really just the era that I figured out, like, one lender, right? One lender was talking to me and rejected me for the loan. I was like, well, you know, can you elaborate what's wrong? What do you think about it? It's like, we don't know if this property is going to be here in another 10 years. And that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, oh, you have no idea what my plan is. You think I'm just going to buy this thing and hold it. And so I had one lender some kind of way told me what a pro forma is. I had to go Google pro forma to figure out what that was. And then I put together a package that showed how I was going to renovate the units and increase the rents. And that's when I got a loan officer who said yes to me. I was like, oh, thank God, I'm finally going to be able to get something done here. But yeah, that was really it. Just trial and error. And it was a credit union. It was one of those smaller banks that were, this bank was out of Memphis, sort of close to where the property was.
Okay, so let's talk numbers here. What about earnest money? Did you have to put up earnest money? It sounds as though, you know, you must have gone right through the due diligence period. And did your money ever go hard? What type of risks did you take on that deal?
Yeah, so this was really it was a dog of a property. It had been there for,
yeah, I mean, because 50% occupancy, you can't get a conventional loan. How did the credit union do that?
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I got enough no's, definitely. So I knew that a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah.
I guess they finally saw the pro forma and saw that there was potential there. And I mean, my price point was
Low,
dirt cheap, you know, for what I was getting this at. So it seemed like it had a lot of upside, but earnest money, I really can't remember. Maybe I did, you know, 5 or 10 grand down or something. What money at all? And this was a mom and pop seller, right? So he wasn't very sophisticated. I got a little bit of seller financing from him as well. And yeah, that's really it.
Okay. What were the terms in the seller financing?
So I want to say it was about, I could be wrong, but it's about, and so it wasn't a lot of money, and I was supposed to pay him back over a 5-year period. So I probably somewhere, whatever interest rates were at that day, you know, 5.5%, somewhere 5.25%, somewhere around there is what we were doing.
Okay. So what was your plan with this property? And what, you know, obviously you had to renovate units. How much of a space or a vig between the market rents and the scheduled rents? I mean, did you even know to look for that and understand how much value you could uncork in that? You didn't. Look at you shaking your head.
I'm telling you, I really, here was my thinking at the time. I saw that it was 50% vacant. I was like, if I fill up the other side, right, fill up the other 10 units, I could refinance and then get my money back out. And that was going to allow me to go, you know, put money into more properties. That was really it, right? I bumped rents up a little bit. Now I was obviously scared, so I researched, but when you don't know what to look for, you just don't know. So if I had you with me, Charlie, you would have been beating me up and slapping me upside the head, like, what the hell are you doing? But just taking those terms. But that was really it. So I saw 50% as 50% of upside. We're going to renovate those units, and really just putting lipstick on a pig and trying to get more bodies in there. And I was going to refinance it. That's really it. That was the game plan.
Yeah. And so how did it go? How'd the closing go, and how'd the transition work? And what were the mistakes? What were some of the mistakes that you made?
How much time we got? We're going to 10 o'clock. Let's see things I can remember. I had we had the security deposits that became an issue. Right? Told me I had so much money in security deposits. And then about a week or so before closing 305, I used some of their security deposit because they didn't pay rent and they're gone now and that sort of thing. And I'm like a week or so out of closing, so I don't know what to do. There's nothing. Our contract was very vague. We used like a residential contract to do this commercial transaction. So it was just like, hey, we got some security deposits, but the seller wasn't really liable. So that was something that bit me. There was also the fact of rent showing up. So I remember that first one of closing, and I thought I was going to collect, I don't know, maybe $8,000 or so in rent, and there was about $3,500 that showed up, and I'm like, you know, where the hell is the rest of the money?
That same thing happened to me on a deal I did. Thought they were 96% occupied, 50% of them had already moved out. I called the property manager and said, hey, where's the rest of my money? He says, there's no more money coming in. That's it. Oh man, that was a wake-up call. That was a big mistake I made early on.
Yep. No verification of rents. Just thought that the 50%, the people who were living there just assumed that they were actually paying, because who would ever live in a property and not pay, right? Who would do that? So I'm like, yeah, that money's coming in. I know that. So that was a mistake.
I'll tell you something. One thing that I put in my contracts, my purchase and sale contracts, is that you can go in and inspect the units right up until the closing date, and not just during the due diligence period, right up into the closing date. And that came about because of the situation I was in, just like yours, where all of a sudden you're walking through these units, nobody lives here, and they haven't been trashed out yet. And I've got to go clean out all the trash and turn all these units. And that's why I put that clause in there, because of that exact same thing.
Yep. So that was another, and then not to mention, once I actually bought it, I was just all glass half full type of guy, right? So we went in and I had enough money to renovate like a handful of units. And I'm like, all right, then I'm going to refinance. And what happened is I didn't account for people leaving. Yeah. So I'm in it. I'm like, all right, I need to go renovate, call it 5-6 units so I can refinance. But before I could repair those units and turn them over, there were probably 4 or 5 people that left, right? Either they skipped or didn't pay or whatever. And that's when I was like, oh, this is not going with.
Yeah. Okay, so and your father's coming in and he's got no experience. I mean, what type of property management software system did you use?
We ended up, I just found something online. So it was like Tenant Cloud is what we were using. I thought it was a reasonable price. And it's around, I think it's more for single families, but they did have some multifamily features to it. So that's what we rolled with.
Wow. Okay, so how did it go? How was your first year?
The first year was rough. I immediately ran out of money, and I can laugh about it now, but at the time, I was sweating. I was like, what am I going to do with this property? I don't have enough money to go renovate more units. And so that led me to try to scrap for some money. So in this property, I think I tapped into my 401k, and that gave me some money. So I may have got, I don't know, 40,000 or something like that. I was like, that basically I'm just bargaining for units now, right? So it's costing $6 a unit to renovate these. And so I'm just getting enough money to do another handful of units to try to get to the next refinance. So I did that to get some money. That bought me a little bit of time, got the occupancy a little better, did a refinance, but obviously our occupancy wasn't where it needed to be yet. So we didn't get great terms, probably got beat up with, and all these times I'm doing a refinance, I'm getting charged, 1% origination fee, going to a broker, paying them just to get, maybe $60,000 or so from the cash out refi to give me enough money to go in and renovate another handful of units. But over the course of time, I'm also learning, right? So we're getting better at collections, we're getting better at evictions.
You know, let me just say that what you just said is something I learned on that same property. Is when you go in to do a renovation, a rehab, a repositioning, have the money in the bank. It's the hardest thing and to use current cash flow to pay for your rehab. That's a tough way to live a life. Get the money up front, go out there and turn those things as fast as you can, and then do the full refi. So,
yeah, thank you, Charlie.
Oh, okay. So how much? What were the rents that they were paying, and what were the rents that you ultimately moved them up to?
So this was all studios.
Oh my God.
Very small units. They were paying like 450, 475. We only went up to like 550, maybe 575. So we didn't move rents at all. It really wasn't even a play on rents. It was more a play on. And so I was like, I don't really need rents any higher. I just need occupancy. Not realizing that, the rents you charge will attract a certain type of tenant, but
Right.
that's later over years that you realize that.
Yeah. So, okay. So what about what tenant lessons did you learn?
What was that? What tenant? What
Tenant lessons did you learn?
Oh yeah. That they leave, that they're nasty, bed bugs, crying, you know what I mean? Like at the time you knew, and my dad's new too, and he's like, tenant from 206, they came in here and they were crying and promising they were going to pay, and so he doesn't do the eviction, and they never pay, right?
Yeah.
It's just the thing. I was like, you know what, Dad, we can't do this, I don't care who cries, who's got a story. Everybody's got a story. But learning all about that, it just really made tenants try to go different. I was like property managing this thing too, right? So one tenant is too loud and there's a fight or whatever, that sort of thing. So
now, where were you living at the time? Were you in this area?
I was not. So I was in the DC area during this time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your dad was over there.
Yeah, he was there.
Okay. Wow, what a good man he is, huh?
Well, he didn't know what he was getting into.
You owe him big time.
Yeah, I hung him out to dry, man. He didn't know.
Okay, so what happened where is that property now?
Yeah, so I sold that property this year.
Okay.
All
right, so give us some numbers. Give us some, what did you get into it for? And what did you sell it for?
Yeah, so I got into this for $325,000, I think.
So about $10,000 a unit.
About 10 grand a door. Yeah, it was a dog, but that's what I got into it for. I got my sort of final.
You know what, Jason? You just made me look like I'm 72 years old because I've been teaching long enough for people to buy properties at $10,000 a door. I mean, holy cow. Man, am I an old man?
Yeah. I mean, if I had knew what I was doing, like you said, it could have been a home run. Take all the money, blitz it, turn around and get out of that thing in a year. But because I didn't, I took the long route, and it took me way longer. But yeah, at $325 a door, I got my final refinance out, and I want to say my numbers were about $700,000. That's where I got all my money to keep the property. Then we operated for a while. My dad is, he got older. It just became too much of a burden on him. And so recently sold it for 760. Yeah, 760 is what I sold it for. And it wasn't a bad deal, but for being my first deal, it taught me a lot. It just, at this point, it didn't really fit in the business plan. I'm not in the area, and it was more of a headache to go back and just be concerned with it. But no, I think it treated me well for the time I owned it.
Yeah, that sounds like a great lesson. To come away with money in your pocket after, learning a lesson like that, good for you. Bravo.
Yep.
Okay. Now I gotta bring everybody up to speed on, you're killing it now. You are building a beautiful multifamily real estate investing business now. You're you got you're building up the syndication. You're teaching. I see you standing up in front of crowds now, Jason. You're doing your solo act. I mean, you're leaving me at home. I mean, you're just killing it. You're really out there, and you hold classes now teaching people about multifamily. Tell everybody here how you're running your business and other deals that you've done. Hi, my name is Charles Dobbins. I'm the founder of the Multifamily Investing Academy, and for the last 10 years, I've been coaching and consulting with multifamily investors, teaching them the right way to buy apartments and build a successful multifamily business. I have worked with investors who started with me owning 0 units to now owning over 6,000 apartments. And there have been many clients who now are in my 1,000 unit club. Just by my understanding of an investor's knowledge of 2 things, I can tell from the first conversation that I have with that investor whether they are going to be a success or if they won't even get past the first offer. Now, what are those 2 things? The first thing is knowing that no matter how knowledgeable you are about properties, markets, finance, it's all meaningless if you don't know anything about sales and marketing. And the second thing is that you need systems in your business that work even when you don't. Now, I've developed a new program for multifamily investors that should be your very first sales and marketing system. It automates the process of generating property leads from brokers and owners, as well as keeps you connected with your investors every single month. And then I took it one step further. I decided to give you access to my marketing team that are employed by me, trained by me, and will now work for you. I already have the staff trained and they're ready to execute. And in addition to providing you with trained staff, I'm going to give you the tools I use to automate the system. I'm going to give you access to my custom designed multifamily CRM software that systematizes your marketing to your investors, owners, and brokers and connects you with your new employee. And believe me, on this podcast commercial, I'm just scratching the surface of all the features my program provides. So go to www.multifamilyinvestingacademy.com/your marketing system and sign up today. And for being a loyal listener of my podcast, on the checkout page, use discount code podcast, and I will reduce the one-time setup fee by $500. Let's start working together today. And now back to the show.
Started raising capital. One of the things that Charlie teaches is that you learn is that you have to be deliberate about. Really boils down to having some sort of thought leadership platform. So right now it started off as a monthly meetup when I was living in Washington, the DC area. I was in Northern Virginia, close to Tyson's Corner where you taught at. But I monthly meetup, and I would just have a speaker come and gather people around to talk about multifamily, because at the time there wasn't a lot of people doing that. And so then COVID happened, we weren't meeting in person anymore, and then went to online. So now it's just an online meetup that I do. And instead of doing it once a month, I now do it once a week. But the goal is that you talk, you give people useful information. You now have contacts and emails that you can now communicate with. So that's how I share my news with people. They'll come in, they'll register for the meetup because they want to hear what I'm talking about or somebody else is talking about. And then we stay in contact like that. And each meetup, I'm always pointing people to, hey, here's my website if you want to hear about deals we're doing. Here's a few deals that we've done. If you want to be on our investor list, here's where you go. So it's very intentional about telling those investors, hey, this is how you work with us if you choose to. But if not, here's some useful information and a good conversation. And I'm learning just as much as everybody else is learning. But the benefit is that I get to ask the questions because I'm the host. I get to determine who shows up, who we invite. And it's always people that I think are either pretty cool or somebody who's doing something that I want to hear about. Matter of fact, Charlie, you need to come. I've been waiting for my
invitation. I've been waiting for my invitation. Jason. I mean, let's do it. I'll be more than happy. And that goes for every one of my students. If you want me to do something like that and speak to your crowd, I'm all in, all in. So
Awesome.
yeah, that would be great. Definitely. Let's set it up.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's really it. So it's about creating that funnel and then driving people to that funnel. So you get them into your world and then just farming it, trying to stay top of mind.
Okay. So what have you done from acquisition on an acquisition standpoint, and how are you working your investor database?
You mean like as far as properties that we bought?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you're also partner. The other cool thing, and I think you might have been partnering with some of my students. You've been partnering with other students as well, other investors. You're not just always being the lead on these deals, are you?
No.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah. So what you'll find in business is that there's doing deals is something that happens. So what I found, it's like a seesaw. Sometimes you're heavy on deals. Sometimes you may be heavy on cash or investors. And so what I got into was doing the meetup, having an investor base deal to put them in. And so being a part of just networks, other people who are in the industry, it became beneficial to just say, let me go test my network, right? How much capital do I really have on hand? How much, who's real and who's not when it comes to people who said, hey, I'm interested in a deal. So I was able to get ownership in other deals by obviously participating. I underwrite all the deals, help with the business process and talk to my investors, but also bringing capital to those deals as well. But I didn't have to necessarily be the boots on the ground and do all the day-to-day operations and asset manage like I do on the properties that I own. So I was able to grow the portfolio through partnerships, and it allows me obviously to expand. Obviously, I'm a general partner in all the deals, but it allowed me to see how other people were doing things well, right? And so it helps you perfect your own business, right? How are they doing communications, right? How are they talking to their investors? How are they doing their asset management, that sort of thing? And you can pick up and learn by being with other teams. So since then, that's what I took the partnership level. I've done some more deals where I'm the quarterback of the deal. I've also partnered with other teams where they're the quarterback of the deal, and really been able to grow. But it's allowed me to stay into the business and really to expand the portfolio. And I like it, man.
Yeah, I love when I saw that. I thought, good for you, man. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, back when you and I met, you're sitting in that amphitheater. Did you ever envision this is how you would be doing the business 5 years later?
Not at all.
Yeah, yeah, that is so cool. Good for you, man. All right, so let's talk numbers. How many units? You know, and I want to be specific here because you know, I'm an investor in a lot of deals too. I can't stand it when people say, "Oh, I own 4,000 units." Yeah, because you put 20 grand in one unit, you put 20 grand out. I mean, talk to me about your LP numbers and your GP numbers, and you know what you own on your own right now.
Yeah. So actually, my LP have many singular LP positions, right? Because luckily I had enough deal flow. Every time I was investing in a deal as an LP, I was also a GP. So I'm a general partner in all the deals that I own. The portfolio was at like 1,029 units. We sold off some properties, and so it's down probably, I would say, like around 600 now. So because last year and this year we've been selling. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm 50% partner, or like the one that I sold 100% partner, that smaller 34 unit. And then I got some where I'm only like 15%, but it adds up with when you talk about being a general partnership in a much larger deal.
Yeah.
So those little small percentages do add up, and they provide you, very little on cash flow, but it is a chunk of change on exits, right? Which is the way we're doing, because it's usually preferred returns and investors are being satisfied. That's the way you stay in business. But then after that, you start seeing those properties go up in value, and that's how we're able to benefit.
It just reminds me. I'm just picturing you sitting next to Drew Pugh in the classroom. Drew looks like he was voted most likely to succeed, and you were the class clown. And look at the two of you now. Look at you. No, don't worry about it. That's the way I always was too. I was the class clown. Look at me now. So yeah, I tell you, Jason, this is so cool. Let's guys, chime on in, ask away, or unmute yourself, ask Jason some questions. And I'm going to go through the chat box because I saw a couple of questions in there. But anybody want to chime in? Let me see. I saw Melissa had one. All right, okay, yeah. Let me get that one. Rough crowd, yeah, rough crowd. Exactly, Drew. It is a rough crowd. Hey, Melissa, I think it's in Article 8 that wording is in the purchase and sale agreement. Actually, but the thing is, I think it might actually originate in the letter of intent. I think where we keep it open, but maybe not. I don't think maybe in the long form letter of intent, we have that wording, but definitely in a purchase and sale agreement. I think it's Article 8 where I do not put a deadline. I can go out and I can inspect units right up until I can, always inspect the property right up until the closing date. But I can't, my money goes hard at the end of the inspection period. So it's even though the money goes hard, I still get to come on and take a look because I put other provisions in the contract that say if somebody has skipped within 48 hours, they've got to trash that unit out and clean it all up, or they have to pay me money at closing. I have that provision. So the only way I can put teeth in that provision is if I'm able to go in and inspect the property before closing. So that's why I have those two, not competing, but complementary provisions in the process. And let me see. Oh yeah, hey, two things about the meetups. First up, where can people find your meetups? And what's the name of your meetup so people can sign up? Because I want people to get on and also give people your website so they can get access to you through that.
Yeah. So I'll put the website. It's snscapitalpartners.com. But really, I'm probably sharing this too early, but jasonstubblefield.com has got a lot of information. Well, it's not a lot of information. It's basically just got ways to connect with me, whether you want to get to the website to invest or right now I'm actually doing the meetup two places. So it's on meetup.com, but meetup is very localized. So it's still in the Northern Virginia area. But the way I'm expanding that is actually through a Facebook group. And so I've created a Facebook group that's called the Multifamily Code, and I host my meetups within that. And so it's unique. Facebook's been kind of dead. You got everything else. You got TikTok and Instagram and all the other platforms, but Facebook has some unique characteristics about it. It's still more of a community, like you friend me, I friend you, and Facebook groups are doing very well because they have that common cause. So what I found is just like creating a cause around multifamily and then driving people to a Facebook group is actually pretty good to answer questions. There's just a lot of things that you can do. And so I'm doing that. I've still got my local meetup. You can do meetups in multiple areas too. So if you want to raise capital and say you just think, for instance, San Francisco is a great place to raise capital at, you could, if you choose to, just start an online meetup, but base it out of San Francisco. Or you can, Multifamily Code, Patricia, that's what it is called, the Multifamily Code. And basically that's where I host it at. So the meetup's there. The meetup's also on meetup.com. That's the name of the meetup group, the Multifamily Code. And we'll have people like Charlie coming by and sharing useful stuff like that.
That's so cool. Good for you, man. Any other questions we got going for Jason? Let me see. What top 3 priorities would you focus on if you could go back and talk to your beginner multifamily? Yeah, if that's a great question. What would you do differently if you had to do it all over again? How would you come about this business differently?
First of all, I would narrow down my market. I tended to look over a lot of places, and what I found is better, especially is to be really localized in just a few markets. No, excuse me. So I would do that. Also, you definitely need to understand underwriting. You definitely need to know your numbers inside and out. But the sooner you can step out of that, you can start to see the rest of the business. And it's like a necessary evil to try to get there, because it takes so much time in order to be able to evaluate these deals and come up with the offer price and all of that. But if you can get that off your plate, find a partner, find somebody else, hire a virtual assistant that can help you do that, you can focus on those other areas, like raising capital and sort of working on your business to see the growth necessary.
That's why when some new student sends me over a cash flow analyzer, where they throw the numbers in the down and dirty section, quick and dirty section, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You've got to go through each number, understand what's going on with that property by understanding the numbers. And that's the only way you're going to learn this business. It's just a numbers business.
Yep. And it's, once you do it enough, you get that. I remember you talking about this, Charlotte. It's like you do it enough and you can tell the story, right? You just look at a T12 and all of a sudden you can fill in the gaps, right? It's always like, okay, I see what's going on now here. You got a vacancy problem, you got a bad debt problem. That's why it's on the market, whatever, right? You start to see that just by looking at the numbers.
That's exactly what we say. The numbers tell the narrative. You can sit there and look at a trail. Once you become good at this business, you can look at a trailing 12 and know what a day in the life of that little old lady is who runs that property and has run it for the last 20 years. It's all in the numbers. The numbers tell the story. It's beautiful. Brandon's got a great question here, talking about the rehab. What lessons did you learn from rehabbing that first property in Tennessee that you apply today in your current properties?
Yeah, I would probably say don't stick with anybody. You know what I mean? I was a contracting whore when I had those units. I mean, like if you but being serious though, it's like I had 17 units to rehab and I didn't necessarily know what contractor was going to work. So I hired 3 contractors almost at the same time and just gave each one of them a unit so you can see the difference in quality of work. Who's going to show up on time, who's going to do good work, complete it how you like it. And so I did, and I still use that today. We usually on anything I'm doing asset managed, we try to get 3 quotes until we can find who that contractor is, and finding people basis. So just trying to do that, and then once we find one, you try to treat them good and make sure that they get paid on time and keep a good relationship with them.
Now, how has the extent of your rehab changed? Like back during the 34 unit property, were you just, like you said, putting lipstick on a pig? Were you just like putting in new paint, new carpet and calling it a day? Or are you now like gutting it, making it look like an IKEA showroom or something? How are you doing it now?
Yeah, it's always gauged on the property. I mean, that first one was really, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know completely how to think about a project long term. So now it's more like, how much money do we really need to be comfortable, right? And so as you start owning apartments, you feel like there's one thing to own it, and then there's another thing to comfortably own it, right? And so when I say comfortably owning it, I mean I'm not concerned. We're well capitalized. If I get a call from our property manager, we can do it. We can handle issue that arises. We can pay our investors, right? We got our returns. We know that those are the properties I like owning, right? Because it's just a business. Trying to cut corners, things that actually can cause you a lot of stress, because now you feel like, oh, did I not do that? Is my plumbing not right? Am I going to get that call in the middle of the night where pipe collapse or whatever? You don't have the cash to take care of it. So when it comes to renovation, it's more like what can we do so that we don't have to worry in the future? So it is the same, you know, interiors, flooring and painting and cabinets and all of that. But at the same time, we're also trying to look more at the capital expenditures, electrical, roofs, plumbing, trying to see that we need to take care of those as well. And at the time when I got started, I probably would have bought anything, right? Just because I wasn't necessarily a handyman, and you don't know what changing a fuse box can cost you, or what some plumbing line replacement can cost you at the time. You just want to do a deal.
Well, why a chiller boiler is not a good thing to buy. You know, those types of, and what you just said, you were like working through all my mantras, where I said, I just want to own property that I forget I even own. And that's like, you know, yep. So I gotta mute Dave Ferris. He doesn't even know he's unmuted. But that's the way it, you're absolutely right. Now, okay, Jason, you gotta explain to me your mindset. What made you think buying a 34 unit property in Western Tennessee was a good thing to do? Like, how did you think, I want to get in the multifamily business? Like, where'd you come from?
Yeah. It was, I was doing a single family thing like a lot of people do, right? Rich dad, poor dad, right? It's like, all right, now I need to go out here and get rich, and real estate's the way to do it. And so it was trying to just do something. But once I started buying single family, one day I put pen to paper and said, how many of these am I going to need before I can quit my job or do anything that is going to change my life? And, you know, I'll drop in. I'm like, this is going to take me forever. I don't have enough money to put 20% down on these. And that's when I just started really scrambling for other ways, because I knew that the way I was going wasn't going to work. So I looked for enough ideas and, you know, tried a bunch of crap that didn't work, tried websites and Amway selling and all types of foolish stuff that I did, try to make some money. But finally I found multifamily and it made sense. I was like, okay, I see how this can work.
And so you decided, why'd you pick Western Tennessee? And
that's where I'm from, right? Yeah. So
okay.
I'm from a small town in West Tennessee. This wasn't too far from that. And
your dad was living out there.
And my dad was living there. So
okay.
I had some boots on the ground. And I was, you know, looking to just make something happen. I had a couple of two fourplexes under contract in Memphis that fell out of contract. And then I was like, all right, well, what else do I have? And I called on this property and was like, all right, I need to do something.
That is so cool. Now, you know, but I got to go back to Dot's question. You know, what would you tell the young Jason about doing that?
Yeah, well, one thing would be, I think everybody on this call tonight knows, is like, don't do it alone. That if I had been working with you on that 34 unit, I would have done it faster. I would have done it with less stress. I would have got lending on it faster because I would have known what to do. Right. Yeah. It was just like, I learned everything on the fly. And the best thing that it taught me was, don't go try to do that again with somebody else's money. And so that's why I was like, who's going to help me? Who's got experience that can look over my shoulder so I don't make these mistakes in the future?
Yeah. That's great advice. I mean, because as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, no, we would have done, the contract would have protected you that way. We would have done this. The due diligence would have handled it that way. You know, we set you up with a bunch of different lenders, you know, but hey, man, Jason, you got a great education and you made money doing it. So, I mean, I've lost a lot of money sometimes with some of my education. So, you know, you consider yourself very, very lucky. And you worked hard, not just lucky. And Bernard Williman is asking, what did you find is the most successful way to raise money from your investors?
Yeah. So it's really a relationship thing, right? And so for me, it's not one thing, right? My meetup is my source, right? Because it's something that that doesn't take a lot of effort for me, right? It's reaching out, it's finding a speaker, and then showing up. And so I'm comfortable doing that. But my way of being comfort and doing something may not be your comfort level. So you got to find out what's comfortable for you to do, that you can do and to commit to. So what I do is every time I'm trying to think of something new that I'm going to do, is always view it as a year, right? Not just saying like, hey, I'm trying to do this to see if it works. Like, no, I'm going to commit to doing this for a year. And if it works, or if it doesn't work, you still got to be able to commit to doing it for a year. So when you take that mindset, now you're like, all right, I got to do this. I got to show up. My first meetups, that was like me and 3 other people in the room. It's completely boring, and it's just something that you do, but consistent start to pay off. But it's whatever way you can get in front of your people to have a conversation with them. And the internet nowadays is because you don't have any way to get in front of as many people as you possibly can right now from the comfort of your own home or from your cell phone or whatever, right? You can talk to somebody across the country. And so figuring out what your platform is going to be, and then going in and trying to see how you can get people off of that platform and into your database is sort of the strategy to try to figure out, right? So there's what, 7 billion people on the planet, 5 billion people on the internet. Where are you going to go to get them? So Meetup's got some, Facebook's got some, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, like they're all there, but creating something on that platform to try to attract people from there and then get them off. That's one way you just got to sort of figure out. And then the second thing that I do is leverage other people's networks. So when I'm doing a capital raise, it's never just Jason's network alone, right? I'm always looking to partner with somebody else. And now I just established relationships with other people. Like I know they can bring, $500,000, person can bring $1 million to a deal. And I know what type of deals that they like. So I'm trying to make sure that we feel capital raise, because I got a network that I can tap into. And I also know that you got a network that you can tap into, and we always try to aim somewhere above what we think we actually need between those networks, so that we feel pretty good about the capital raise. That's great. Bernard, how was that answer? Thumbs up. Good. Yeah, but I tell you, Jason, this world has changed so drastically. I remember early on in my career when I spent a whole day teaching up in Detroit to 3 people. Boy, that was tough. But you know what? You got to do it. You book the time. These people came out to see you. You give them a full day's worth of information. So, yeah, that's cool. So, all right, man. Hey, all right. We're coming up on the end of it. Jason, everybody has your contact information. Hit me up. I'd love to speak at your meetup. I want everybody to start showing up to Jason's meetup. Guys, Jason did it. I mean, he's building that type of business that everybody here on this call wants to have. And I always knew he was going to be a success. But I thought Drew Pugh was going to be a success too. And we're waiting. Beating up on Drew, man.
I love Drew. He's awesome. He's a great guy. Yep. So, but reach out to Jason. Jason, I'm going to get you a link. I'm going to get you on our Upcoach. You're going to have access to our platform, so you can always bring some cool stuff and tap into where's my safe space? Yeah, not here, Drew. Not here. It's bad when even Richard Berardinelli jumps on the bandwagon and starts to rip you apart, Drew. So, but Jason, I'm going to get you on our platform so you can be well, I already have Grant Lindholm is a professor emeritus of the platform, so we'll have to come up with a new name for you. But thank you so much, Jason, for being here. I love talking to you. It was absolutely fantastic. This is why I love what I do, is because of people like you that clients of mine that we just become friends as time goes on. And I love seeing you succeed. It is the best feeling in the world. So bravo. Let's hear it. Let's hear it for Jason, everybody. Come on. Good for you, man. Good for you. Awesome.
And thank you, Charlie. I still remember those days from sneaking out of my job to call you on the phone and like, what the hell do I do in the contract right now?
Yeah, I love those calls from you. So, All right, man. Good to see you. And everybody, we're going to be signing off and enjoy. And remember, there's no call that Monday of Labor Day, obviously, because that's going to be my daughter's marriage. She's getting married that weekend, so I won't be around. So it'll be a big, everybody get the weekend off. So, all right, everybody. Richard, where are you, man? Love you. See you, Grant. See you, everybody. Have a great night. Take care.
All
Thanks,
right. See
Jason.
you, Joe.
Bye-bye.
See you.
You've reached the end of another episode of the best multifamily investing podcast ever. For free resources and materials, head on over to www.multifamilyinvestingacademy.com. And if you love the Multifamily Investing Academy podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate us, and give us a review on iTunes. And until next time, this is Charles Dobbins, the multifamily attorney, signing off. Signing off. Signing off.